10 minutes of Earthworm Jim Facts. In the Nintendo 64 version of Earthworm Jim 3D, there was a language setting known as Jibber Jabber. This changes all the dialogue in the game into gibberish. In the episode Trout, Earthworm Jim and Peter stop at a place that has nut logs, which when they pick it up, it's extremely hard. In real life, nut log is actually soft and chewy to eat. Evil the Cat was originally going to be the main boss in the Fear stage of Earthworm Jim 3D, but he was replaced with Professor Monkey for a head. To be honest, I'm pretty sure Evil the Cat would have fit the theme well. In the Launch the Cow reboot books, there's a fourth wall break where Earthworm Jim ends up finding a document that talks about the rights of Earthworm Jim, while also mentioning Doug TenNapel, and also using Earthworm Jim's initials, which is EWJ. And in Earthworm Jim 2, Peter Puppy grabs a piece of aluminum, rolls it up to a ball, and it says the word Shiny Entertainment. In the ending of Earthworm Jim Launch the Cow, there is an atheist reference where Queen Slugfurbutt screams out "Dang atheism" when Earthworm Jim dies. And also, there are several references to atheism with Queen Slugfurbutt, where half of the science is replaced with magic. And also to note, there's a scene in the book where Farmer Jim and Earthworm Jim all pray to God, and also Evil the Cat having the communist symbol behind him. Despite Tube Race being one of the more difficult parts of Earthworm Jim, there's actually a way that you can be able to beat the level. If the player goes to a specific part of the map, there is actually a secret oxygen tank that can refill it up to 60, and this should be enough to get you out of the level. Earthworm Jim HD had removed a lot of stuff from the original game. There's several things that they kept, like the extended version of New Junk City, but some of the other stuff like Big Broody, homing missiles, even including who turned on the lights, were cut from the game, but Intestinal Distress was still in the final version of the game. In one of other Doug TenNapel's creations known as Rat Fist, Earthworm Jim appears for a brief second. In 2021, user known as TeddyRoot12 made a headcanon that Earthworm Jim would fall asleep in his suit and sleepwalk, which then Doug TenNapel tweeted true, and that this is actually canon. In the Sega Saturn version of Earthworm Jim 2, the player beats the game in one sitting. They actually get a special screen of Earthworm Jim watching the TV. There was an ad for Earthworm Jim on Super Nintendo, and it was of an old granny eating a bowl of earthworms while talking about the game. This ad was pulled from television due to it being disturbing. Speaking of disturbing, the UK ads are,
Maybe if you didn't play with that worm.
Protect your worm from the evil push handheld game in the world.
Now you can play with your worm and
Whips and chains excite you. Get some hand relief.
According to early toy shows with Earthworm Jim, Clutch was the name of a slug character that was gonna appear with the action figure line. He was most likely pitched, and it was most likely pitched to be a character in the show, since Hamsonator, who's another character, got an action figure. But the character never happened. This one's a random one. So in the show, Earthworm Jim always cries about how his parents were stepped on, and he's basically an orphan. But in the Launch the Cow book, his parents he thinks that are the cows. In reality, Earthworm Jim doesn't have parents, but instead he was mutated by a suit. Speaking of that, there were two ways Earthworm Jim was mutated by the suit, according to lore. In the TV show and game, the suit just mutated him, but in Launch the Cow, a space fairy ended up bringing him to life with a suit by pouring stuff. And also because she's lonely and tired and needs attention, like a lot. The reprint version of They Call Him Evil, which was released alongside of Earthworm Jim Fight the Fish, was actually in color but also censored. There's several stuff from this that was actually had to be censored in this release. Before the now known design for Earthworm Jim 2, there were actually some earlier pitches on what the design cover of the game should be. One of them was Earthworm Jim doing the bunny ears, aka the number 2 symbol, which was never used, but it did get used in a Japanese ad for the Sega Saturn. Despite Intestinal Distress being a Genesis and Special Edition exclusive, the level did appear in the Game Boy Advance version of the game, and also the HD remake of Earthworm Jim. Aggression was originally going to be a part of Earthworm Jim's brain that would have explained his memory about there being a war. This idea was reworked into the memory stage, and most importantly, Earthworm Jim doesn't have a past. In the pilot of the show, there are several characters that are meant to be in the show, like Major Mucus, Fifi, and Doc Doodledum, that were meant to be in the show, but were scrapped. Except Major Mucus did have a small little figure that was bundled with the Psychro figure. In the tequila bottle ad of Earthworm Jim 3D in Germany, the bottom mentions that there was meant to be a Game Boy Color version of the game. I think this is referring to Earthworm Jim Menace of the Galaxy since that did have a Game Boy Color version. In the Super Nintendo version of Down the Tubes, it actually has a music swap, where instead of it playing the original theme that it plays in that stage, it actually just plays the New Junk City theme, where the other versions play the correct music. Here are some images of some Earthworm Jim ads that are made to promote the game, that were actually drawn by Doug TenNapel. If I couldn't just get away from the weird ads. The director actually voiced Earthworm Jim for the Russian dub of the show. Back in 1995, to promote the Earthworm Jim television series, Taco Bell actually sponsored them by making little toys to go with their kids' meals. Yes, Taco Bell used to have kids' meals. Carl's Jr. would do the same around 1997, but oddly enough, the show already ended back in 1996, making these rare, and also because of Hardee's. There are actually 4 lost dubs of Earthworm Jim: Hungarian, Polish, the international Russian dub, and the Turkish. That just reminds you how many dubs are there for this show. Peter Puppy's origin story is actually quite interesting. He has several different origin stories. In the TV show, he was a normal dog that got possessed by some sort of spirit that Evil the Cat had. In the Marvel Absurd comics, he was an experiment by Professor Monkey Forehead. And in the reboot book, he's actually a spy sent by Queen Slug for a butt before allying with Earthworm Jim and Peter Puppy. I mean, Princess what's her name? In Insectian rules, those who look ugly are pretty and those who look pretty are ugly. This is shown with Queen Slug for a butt, with her being the most prettiest, according to them, while Princess What's Her Name is the most ugliest. In the Windows 95 version of Earthworm Jim, if you click Pacific button, Earthworm Jim will actually have a peeing animation where he pees. I don't know how that's possible, but he just does that. In a certain version of the Book of Gear, which was made by Doug TenNapel, in a certain version of the book, one of the characters who dies is called Jimmy. There are several references from Dune, from Peter Puppy in the show, always quoting the quote, "I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer," quote. And also Earthworm Jim Beyond Groovy's trailer did mention something about the Arakian worms. And that the entirety of the plot of Earthworm Jim Fight the Fish actually follows the quote. In the early version of Earthworm Jim 2, there was a level that would use Puppy Love's gameplay mechanics, and it was based off of the old Atari game Breakout. In the episode Unholstered Perel, there actually is an error where the beginning part of the show doesn't have any audio, and this is actually a dubbing error. This is in the Dutch version of the show. There was another world that was cut from Earthworm Jim 3D known as Physical. This would have had some like Greek elements that were like gonna be the theme, and it was cut from the game, except some of it was used in the final version of the game, like Earthworm Kim's Boss Fight Arena. In early showings of the Earthworm Jim action figure line, one vehicle accessory that was meant to be made was known as the Worm Tosser. This was just a reskin of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Pizza Tosser. Playmates Toys originally wanted a new mascot, which then basically a few members from Virgin Interactive left to form what was known as Shiny Entertainment. They ended up making the creature known as Snot, but then they later asked Doug TenNapel to make an alien-like creature with a walk cycle. That ended up being Earthworm Jim, as Snot was later repurposed as Earthworm Jim's buddy in Earthworm Jim 2 and in the TV show. Steven Spielberg's Freakazoid came out the same time when Earthworm Jim came out, which was September 9th, 1995, which the two shows were cancelled because of the same reason. In a certain season of the Adult Swim show Robot Chicken, they had a skit where Earthworm Jim and Evil Jim did appear, which honestly is kinda interesting but bizarre at the same time. Earthworm Jim did also make a cameo as a main character in an internet series known as Sonic for Hire. I honestly forgot about this series exists. In the game Skull Monkeys, there's a cutscene where Clyman is eating a worm. Some speculate that this is Doug TenNapel's way of referencing Earthworm Jim. Let's hope it's not. Back in 2021, Michael Kolsch was tasked to make a Earthworm Jim propaganda war-themed poster, which actually looks somewhat nice. Also, if you're wondering if there's a French dub of Earthworm Jim, well, there's not. Sorry, France. I guess they didn't want to choose you. At a certain point of time, the Earthworm Jim wiki did have a trivia section, which stated, quote, "When did the cybersuit give Jim a sentence? He became a devout Christian." I know, it sounds weird. queen slug for Buzz design is actually based off of a queen termite. Also, a big shout out to Teddy Ridgewell for helping out with this video. Also, could we hit like 60 subscribers because I plan to do something special on that day? Anyways, hope you all have a wonderful day.